Hey there, everyone. It's Jody Sutter of the Sutter Company, and welcome back to another Just Ask Jody Live, my monthly LinkedIn Live series. We've got a really interesting guest today who has so many new business strengths. And what's interesting is they're not necessarily the strengths of a lot of agency owners. So I think that for all you agency owners, small agency owners who watch us live or participate live or watch the recording, I think you have a lot to learn from my guest today. But before we get to that, I wanted to mention this is sort of like a weird promo, anti-promo. As many of you know, I've been launching a new program. It's called the Build, Win, Scale Accelerator Program. It's a bit different from the types of programs I've run before. Up until now, I've done almost exclusively one-to-one custom engagements with the owners of small marketing agencies between 5 and 25 people. This is a cohort-based program, the accelerator. I've been promoting the pilot launch, was looking for 5 agencies to join me, agencies who wanted to build a new business operating system for their agency and want a step-by-step program to do that. So good news, I've got those 5 agencies, which is awesome. We're going to start in September. However, I'm hoping that this becomes my signature program. And if you have been seeing the promos or hearing about it, or if you just think this sounds like a really great thing for your agency to have, that step-by-step program, equipping you with a practical framework for turning an unpredictable approach to winning new business into a repeatable, reliable process for success, then I welcome you to email me. My email is right here, or grab this QR code, which will take you right to a scheduling page. What I plan to do is reopen enrollment sometime this fall. And I'd love to welcome you into the next round of the Build, Win, Scale Accelerator. Okay, so that's enough of the promotion. Now I want to get to my guest. Before we bring him on, let me give you just a quick introduction. His name is Jeffrey Mard. I've known Jeffrey for a long time now, so I'm really excited to have him here. He's the founder and CEO of a business he calls Channel M, and he describes it as a modern day connector, helping brands find the right partners, including agencies, find the right partners, capital, and capabilities to scale their business. And his mission in launching Channel M was to close gaps in how brands connect with each other and with the ecosystem around them. He has got what he calls his unique flywheel approach. We're going to be talking about that and what that is. It allows him to stay embedded in the industry, capturing insights, walking trade show floors, and translating trends into actionable partnerships, something I think we all want to be able to do. He also supports a curated network of independent agencies, helping them drive new business and growth for shops that bring category depth, capabilities, and true independence to the table. So let's bring him on. Jeff, it's so nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me get through that, that intro. I love having folks like you on because you really represent a set of capabilities that, like I said, I think a lot of agency owners don't have. And yet, if they're the owner of a small agency, they need to understand how to sort of rally some of the things that make them feel uncomfortable, or bring someone like you or someone like me in to help them. So it's really great to see you today. First of all, how are you? How are things?
Things are great. I was at the Coldplay show, the famous Coldplay show on July 17th at Gillette.
No way.
Yeah,
one?
Yeah, the one where the guy got caught. We're all like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of started my vacation. And worked for a few days, turned 50 during that period, and came back to work last Tuesday, the 11th. So took some time. I was in Vegas for Super Zoo, which is the country's largest animal or pet care show.
Yeah.
Part of my flywheel, and I won't jump the rails in terms of talking about Super Zoo, but I had to come back for Super Zoo to support my agencies and my startups and just network.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm so glad that you're able to make time for this, because I know that you are, I know from direct experience, you're a busy guy. So, usually these conversations are a little bit freewheeling, but I do have a couple of questions I want to start out by asking you. And by the way, for folks who are watching us live today, please, if you've got a question for Jeff, put it into the comments, and I promise I'll be monitoring them. Actually, I want to make sure I am monitoring. There we go. Now I'm monitoring them. I always take, I was just telling Jeff, I always take the comments from the audience, take precedence over my questions. So bring them on. But first, I wanted to ask you. One of the things that was mentioned in your bio is this idea of closing the gaps between how brands connect with each other and within their ecosystem of capabilities. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that gap is, what you're seeing, and why it's so important to fill it?
Yeah. Well, I think the gap exists, and it's more about connecting them with someone that I like to say has three key ingredients, which is independence, independent thinking, category experience. I know there's a lot of people that think category knowledge isn't as important as it used to be, but I still think, when you understand banking or automotive or pet or, better for you, CPG, you have a leg up and they don't have to teach how to fish. And then
100%.
capability centric. Someone that is like, I have two influencer agencies. I have a B2B influencer agency and I have a B2C, more direct to consumer. They both work with the same brand together. I was able to put them together because they're changing public perception down in DC about their product. Then I have another one who's working across their portfolio of products, driving TikTok shop and lifting sales and all of that. But to go back to your question, it really is the closing the gap is it's easier to have a conversation with a business owner or a CMO or head of brand if you walk in there and say, hey, these guys can empathize with you. They understand what you're going through, and they're really good at this type of work. And they're that T company, meaning they don't just create amazing outputs. They make sure that they're packaged up. So if we're doing UX, UI strategy, we're going to make sure that the designers and the developers and the coders and whoever else is involved in that project is going to be able to utilize those assets. Because if you deliver great stuff and it doesn't do anything for you, it's pretty much pointless. It's just
I totally agree. It's really interesting that you say that people don't believe in category experience anymore, and I think that's sort of true. I think that a lot of agencies like to claim that it's not as important because they want the
right.
flexibility to work over categories. But I totally agree. I think new business pitches, they're really about mitigating the risk that a marketer feels inherently in hiring an agency. Is there going to be loss of money, loss of time, loss of market opportunity? And the more you can say, hey, look, here's some great creative, and we know it's going to be great because we understand your audience. We also understand the the requirements of your category, the sort of legal ramifications if we say something wrong, and we won't go there. We're not going to do that because we've got the experience. That reduces the risk, and it just reduces the friction too, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun, because I go in and I talk to a brand,
Yeah.
or I do a lot of work with VCs and PE firms as well, and some
Yeah.
angels. Because oftentimes I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity. You should invest there, and then I can bring in my agencies. But when I'm talking to a brand, I'm like, I'm Jeff. I'm the connector. I understand what you're going through. These are some options for you. If you work with them, I will get paid by them. You don't have to pay me, but I'm very transparent in terms of how I get compensated. Because they're always like, well, what's in it for you? I'm like, well, if we do
Money.
great work, I'll get compensated. But being able to set those conversations up in motion, set the expectation on what my role is and what's in it for me, assuming this agency or this partner has a strong right to win and play in that space, I'm in the back of the room. I don't get involved in agency positioning. I'll make recommendations and I'll
Yes.
say, what's your CRM? What's our touches? How are we, what targets? And we get into all of that, on the kickoff. But my job is not to tell you how to make the sausage, but if you don't have strong project plans, strong SOWs, a tight MSA, and you're able to win, it's pointless to work with someone like me.
You're bringing up a really interesting point. So you are, just to clarify for myself, but also the audience, I think I also know this. You're not what a lot of agencies would think of as that sort of third party outbound lead generator.
No, I am net new, 100% net new logos,
Yeah.
but my model revolves around trade shows and conferences. So I go to about 15 to 16 conferences a year. I took June and July off, but Super Zoo last week, Shop Talk in September, Grocery Shop in October, A&A's, Beauty Connect, and then a Pet Connect, and it's New Year's. So I've got those all coming up. And part of what I do is I write content and I create articles. I also know all the different event organizers. So they're very comfortable working with me because they know that I'm going to put good stuff out there, right? and I'm going to support your keynote speakers. And so for me, it's also an easy way to say, hey, organizer, I know like this was at Global Pet. The founder of Life is Good was on stage. What an amazing story of that brand, right?
Yeah,
New,
know it.
trying to get into the pet space, a non-endemic brand. I spoke with this Pete Scott. He's the CEO of Global Pet. They have like 30,000 attendees. I said, hey, I'd love to meet them. He said, yeah, absolutely. So but I have built that trust bank up and I've never asked for withdrawals. So yeah, it's a little bit of a withdrawal on that relationship, but he knows that I'm going to do all that I can to support his event.
So this is where I'm thinking this is where the flywheel comes in, because I want to go back to something you had said a little bit earlier about, you don't get involved in the positioning, but you're going to be hamstrung if you don't have a good positioning to work with, which I think also just as like a quick lesson is what I say all the time. But, for agencies that are thinking like, oh my gosh, I want a Jeffrey Mart on my team. Like how much does he need? It's not going to work if you don't have a clear message in the marketplace. And this is also why I think people get excited about working with, again, third-party lead generators, and they get disappointed when it's not that sort of silver bullet. So that's really interesting. And so also, I guess the flywheel effect is being able to build trust with your network, to talk to those folks and say, I have some interesting options for you, or I would like to get an introduction made to this person because I have something of value to offer them. All of a sudden,
well, I can tell you my third biggest deal this year was not a retainer client. It was somebody I knew that had an amazing agency, and it was a very niche offering in terms of the branding and packaging work that they do, celebrity beauty. And I had an opportunity come up looking for a celebrity beauty. I'm like, these guys are perfect. And I have agencies that would love that. But I'm like, that's not the right fit for the brand. Like, I know I can win this. And I won that. And it's turned into a very nice relationship. And so it's, it is, yes, I'm incentivized to support my retainer clients. But sometimes, when the ask is specific, it's better to get a win than try to ram something in there and then no one's going to be happy,
And how do you block and tackle that when you do have agencies saying, because I also think about, you're in this interesting middle. I hope this, I'm not saying this incorrectly, but yeah, you're not the third party lead generator, but you're also not necessarily a search consultant. But in some cases, I think about back when I was running business development and you'd hear about a big pitch run by a search consultant and you're like, hey, we should be in there. No, you don't understand. We've got great capabilities. And sometimes it worked. A lot of times it didn't because they often knew us better than we thought we knew ourselves. So how do you block and tackle that? How do you handle an agency that says, no, we really want that celebrity beauty account. Like, just trust us.
I don't bring it up. I keep my cards, close to me.
Yeah.
But certainly, if it is a shootout and there's multiple agencies involved, I would certainly be transparent in terms of, hey, I'm working with, they have other options. I'll tell you everything I know, and I can work all the back channels I have. But it is, for me, going back to kind of the title of this talk around Flywheel, it is getting into, because anyone, I see so many people that run new business at agencies and they leave and okay, great. And then the first thing the agency asks is who do you know? And I'm like, and I tell, it doesn't even matter who I know. It's who do you want? Tell me what brands and what categories where your focus is, because I'm not going and tilling the same soil over and over and over and ruining any existing relationships I have. I'm going to go out there and take that fishing tackle that you have that's really shiny and sexy and everyone wants. And we're going to go and we're going to fish in the ponds where your customers or prospects are. So Shop Talk is a great example. I have some clients. I also have made some investments on the side, but I have some clients in CPG, some investments in CPG. It's a great place for me to be. And so I approached a conference and I struck a deal saying, hey, coming as a connector and advisor, here's what I will deliver in terms of impressions, emails, LinkedIn posts. And I just, as a media property, it's tremendously valuable for the show. And at the same point in time, I'm going to get a lot of benefit because it'll lift my brand. I'm going to meet new people as well.
That's interesting. So yes, you're lifting you're the high tide, just because you're out there and you're communicating to your network, which is pretty big right now at this point. Yeah. What else about the flywheel? Is there anything else that helps to sort of explain that, both
Sure,
how
sure.
you work, but also how, say, is there elements of that flywheel concept that a small agency owner could adopt for themselves?
I think there's two things. One is I have a partner. He has like the number Dan Shuffton. He has a number one marketing job report out there on LinkedIn. He and I have a few
Mm.
agencies together that we work together. So having a partner to kind of, because there's peaks and valleys, and the peaks are really high and the valleys are
Yeah.
really low.
Yeah.
So I do like having a partner that I work with.
Mhm.
Because we support one another. This summer, we both took time off and we kept leads and conversations going. And
Nice.
then the other part is channel partnerships, channel partnerships, channel partnerships. Like just
Talk
today,
about that.
like literally today, I was talking to Dan, and I have my influencer agency, and they reached out to his sweepstakes agency, unbeknownst to us. And they're like, "Hey, we need to do this, this, and that." I'm like, "That's freaking awesome." And it was with a client that I had closed and they're working on. And now they may be using his sweepstakes agencies to support the influencer work that they're doing. And that would have never happened.
Yeah.
Same thing, I have a client who just won a very large account tied to totally different industry than that one. But long story short, it was a branding and positioning agency
Yeah.
that's somewhat well known, amazing clients, and they leaned into a media agency that I'm working with, and they co-pitched. And I see a
Yeah.
lot of that happening. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I think it's really interesting, and I've always been a big supporter of agencies making those partnerships with other shops that have complementary services. Because, speaking of flywheel, you can both leverage each other's network and knowledge and contacts.
Mhm.
I do think that it requires, as in some ways, as focused a business development approach. It's just a little bit different. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, I'll call a partner and everything will just fit into place." You have to, I think, there's still a sales process. There's still a relationship that you have to build. What I also like about how you work, about how your agencies can find partnerships with each other, is that there's already probably speaking of reducing risk, a sense of trust, a sort of a known factor.
Mhm.
So there's not they spend less time trying to sort of sell to each other and build a relationship with the other. They can go right in and start pitching clients, which is really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's been really fascinating because I have a partner that I work with. They're based in the States, but their entire team's in Latin America.
Hmm.
And so, like, I'm also selling into agencies and staffing agency teams. We just placed
Yeah.
two media. I don't even use the word planners anymore because AI does so much of it. But we placed
Yeah.
two media strategists at an agency, and off of that is coming more and more work.
That's fantastic. Hey, Matuz, that's so nice to see you there. I and I think we've spoken before, and I think I've just butchered your name, so I apologize. But so nice to see you.
Yeah.
And I think anyway, I think
Well,
when
we were just emailing because I have a website
excellent. Okay.
that we were supposed to hear last week and supposed to hear yesterday. Just where they are. We'll give them the week, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
could be a nice opportunity.
That's awesome that it's here. So one of the things also that you believe, and I believe too, but I want to hear your sort of reasoning behind this. One of the things that you believe is that independent agencies are often better suited to handle the marketing issues, the marketing challenges of today. Tell me a little bit about why you think that is and how you arrived at that
Well,
conclusion.
I would preface it like it's unique. I don't think it's a categorical statement because there are certainly places for holding company agencies. I don't run in the General Motors, the big brand
Yeah.
circles. So for many of the large national companies that I work with, it makes sense. You can move faster. You can collaborate more easily. And I still see a lot of like the antiquated ways of doing business with some of the larger companies that I work with,
Mhm.
both brand side and agency side. So I believe that independence is critical in being creative in deal structure. I've done a number of
Mm.
deals where here's a small retainer, but we're gonna we'll put some skin in the game, and we'll tie ourselves to a performance incentive that we control. I tell my clients never to do performance-based engagements unless you control 100% of the transaction. Because if you can't agree to the legal terms or agree to whatever it is that they're selling, you lose control and you set yourself up for failure.
Yeah. I still feel like there are a lot of agencies who don't feel like they are really well equipped to do that, or they get a little bit, I don't know, afraid, sort of cowed by that. Do you think there are more and more agencies who are willing to do that, sort of take that control and be that confident about saying, here are our terms? Like, yeah, we will put money on the line, but here are our terms.
I don't think it's changed much.
Mm-hmm.
I think yes, there's a trend towards more performance-based compensation models.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that. But I don't know if I can clearly answer that.
Okay.
I think more agencies are doing that.
It seems like, and I'm talking about like a decade or 50, the last 10, 15 years, it seems like we sort of take baby steps towards that. Still really difficult. I think the agencies are still hesitate to do it. The number of agencies like sort of that make a commitment to that and learn how to do it well, I think are still small. I also think the number of clients that are willing to do that. Do you find that clients are more willing to also give up that control, and to also, I think you need marketers who are willing to share metrics. Are you seeing that they're more likely to do that, or is it the type of marketer who's more willing to share metrics with agencies?
I think it's that middle level that's more likely to do that, as I find. I mean, some of the smaller companies, the business founder, absolutely. A lot of it's been to, we're raising, we've got an A, or we're getting ready for a B, and how position us. I also get involved, which I know you didn't ask.
By A and B, you're talking about rounds of funding.
Yeah, funding. Yeah, sometimes they're like, hey, we just, I've got an earnout. We sold our agency, and I mean, being brutal, we sold our agency. I've got to hit these numbers in 2 years. Can you help me hit these numbers and get the earnout? And like, absolutely, and let's talk about, where, again, I used the word right to win. It's, it's the blend of capabilities, geography, relationships. It's like, it's an amalgamation of where you do your best work. And I would say, your elevator statement means everything. And, don't try to be something for everyone, just be everything for someone, right? You probably heard that, and I think that rings really true in today's day and age.
Yeah. I do too, even though I think there are a lot of people who still, I talk with agencies that still really resist it. And maybe I talk with those agencies because the ones who don't resist it are already out there attracting the clients that they have a right to work with, and they don't need me. But I think you're absolutely right. I think, what I try to sort of position it back as a business issue, that if you're a small agency, you've got limited time, limited resources. And so why do you want to spread yourself so thinly across numerous categories? It just doesn't make sense.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. But it is interesting. Like, I actually wrote 2 articles this week off of Super Zoo, and it's just a rise of non-endemics getting into different categories, and you're seeing with creative partnerships. And, a great example was, Tito's Vodka. I had a great conversation with them last week. And what are they doing at Super Zoo? They're vodka for dog people, right? And they're very involved.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing, Calm, the meditation app, they work with pet care, and they found out the value of like having pets in your life and how it can really help you from, just your pure mental health. And so through Mars and the Waltham Pet Care Society, it's their market research organization that Mars has, they partnered with Calm to do some amazing work, and so you're seeing crossover when it's like, it makes sense, you know?
I'll often, when I'm helping my agencies position themselves, I'll often say, like, look, let's take sort of one of those circle graphs with the intersection in the middle, and you can plug different things in there. But I think often sort of a combination of 3 or the overlap of 3, I'll often say, let's just pick one category, a category where you shine, what you do as an agency. A little bit harder if you're full service, but maybe let's see if we can narrow it down if you're full service or general to one's capability where again you shine. and then a consumer audience that you really know, and that overlap in the middle can be this sort of open itself up into this rich statement if agencies are willing to look at that. I'll also say that when agencies hesitate to narrow things down, just as you said, I think if you can, narrowing down to a category doesn't necessarily mean you're eliminating opportunities. If someone like a Tito's Vodka says, I want the dog owner demographic, and I want someone who understands that dog owner demographic, and because we know those people spend money and they drink vodka or whatever the research shows. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Let me ask you, I'm just going to go back to my questions because there are a ton of other things I know I wanted to ask you about. One of the things that you had mentioned about this flywheel when you were developing, first of all, how long did it take you to develop this flywheel idea? And what were some of the early assumptions that would work, and what did work and then what didn't? What have you learned
Well,
that maybe others?
it's always evolving. Change is
Mm.
one of the only constants, right? So
Yeah.
it's still evolving. And I think originally it was email, and a lot of the traditional outreach methodologies,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't work. You have to get out there. We all know, I don't know what the percentage is, but communication, body language is like 80% plus of what you say. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
or what they feel, right? And they don't really remember anything you say. They just remember that, oh, I enjoyed it. It felt good talking to Jeff. Like, I had a great conversation, and you got to remember that, and like for me, because I'm always, I'm on the road about 1 week, maybe a little more than a week a month. I'm very meticulous. I don't drink at these shows until the last night. Like I treat it like a
Keep
serious.
your brain clear. Yep.
Go to the gym in the morning. From no, I don't think anyone can work a conference or trade show better than me, to be honest. Like, I've been doing it for so long, and it's about the mornings for me. It's about being there when
When
things
you're
are
best.
sitting up front. I use AI a ton in what I do.
I wanted to ask you about that, but before we do, let me just go back to one thing you said. You said, like, so really, what's interesting is like this old school thing. So AI is important. So I think it's also, I have a feeling we're about to talk about an interesting merger of new technology that helps you embrace more of an old school, like, and by old school, I'm talking about since, I don't know, like way pre-modern media, this idea of face-to-face communication. And a good place to do that is at trade shows. So for agency owners who maybe want to try this themselves, it's really about landing on that category or demographic or some sort of niche where they can go and find their audiences gathered in certain places around that niche and then work the room, which sounds like sort of what you do. A part of what you do.
And again, I'm not selling. Like, I'm just helping and connecting and learning. I mean, at the top of like what make like me, like, I'm a learner. Like, that's like the number one thing for me. Like, if I'm not learning, I'm bored. Honestly, like I need to learn, and I really lean in. So like with these, especially, I like business conferences more so than the big trade shows. A conference that's 800 to 1,000 people, it's perfect because you can meet everybody over a 2 to 2.5 day period.
Like the ANA Masters of Marketing kind of thing, or that's probably even bigger, actually.
ANA is great, and I'm not knocking it, but it's a great marketing conference. But oftentimes you've got these brands that everyone wants to talk to, and they're surrounded by their current resources. And it's great to hang out with your peers. But for new business and prospecting, it's not as for me, at least, it's not as effective as going to the actual industry trade shows and learning and creating meaningful dialogue and sharing what you know.
I also find that a lot of not as many agencies, like a lot of agencies go to the ANA and they compete to talk to the clients. Not as many agencies go to the category specific trade shows where they can actually talk to brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're at the bottom. Okay.
The one thing is, on the channel partnerships with the ANA, like it is still great for that. There's a lot. I mean, there's lots of channel partnerships. You've got the media, the design, the brand, the influencer, experiential. You've got all the different people there.
That's a great point. So to think about going to something like the ANA, by the way, for any small agencies who aren't familiar with it, it's the Association of National Advertisers, and they hold a few big conferences. It's a marketer only membership, but a few big conferences a year that you can go as an agency, as a service provider. And that's a really great point that you're making, I think, which is, yes, you want to go to something like that to meet marketers, but you're also going to meet a ton of potential great partners who, through a flywheel effect, can lead you to other business opportunities, and you can provide that for them as well. I would love to talk about AI, and this always happens. We're at the bottom of the hour. Can you hang out for another few minutes to talk about AI?
I got nothing to too.
Okay. Tell me a little bit. Yeah, how are you using AI in new business? Which I think is the kind of question on everyone's mind.
There's lots of ways to use it. We all have our favorite platform. But I'll give you one way from today, this week, and then the one for the trade show. So this week, I think it's I think Home Depot has their earnings report this week, and then Walmart, Target. You're having all the Q2 reports are coming out. Well, you should be taking the data that matters most to the business and blending it with what you do best and the types of work you do, and being creative through your prompts and asking for ideas, and where are the insights, where are the things that can connect to what matters to the CFO, because the CFO and the CTO, their budgets are way larger than the marketing budgets in most cases,
Yes.
So being able to think strategically about their business and using AI to pull out those, I've had conversations with marketers where, I send them an email about, a quote from the earnings release that was earlier that week. And they're like, I didn't get a chance to watch it. Thank you so much. You're delivering value. You're giving them something they would have never had, So Google Notebook is my preferred platform for that. I use it in conferences as well. And what I do is I build my own mini language model. So Notebook is phenomenal. And I use Fathom, the call recording. I record every single thing that's said. I tag and track who's talking.
Live. Live.
I record the whole talk.
When they're not like one-on-one conversations.
Not one-on-one.
Okay, gotcha.
In a business settings, you can then go into the app. If there's supporting PDFs or whatever it might be, take that supporting material, put it into the language model that you're building. Then maybe there's a report that you wrote or your agency wrote. Put it into that language model, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you've got something to push and pull, right? And you can be real. So I have language models. So Expo West, possible. I have these mini language models that I built with dozens of data points that are in there that are unique to that specific show, right?
Oh, wow.
And that's a great way to use AI. So I can always, so when I do my retargeting, I can go back in and look for ideas,
Yeah.
Versus trying to come up with them on my own.
Do you do it yourself, or do you have team members who help you with that?
I do it myself.
You are a machine.
I vacillate all the time about hiring somebody and this. And it's honestly, I've led new business teams and I've had a lot of fun doing it. But I love to hunt. I love to learn. I was an account person for many years. Agency since 1997. Started off at Advantage, which became Octagon, was there for almost a decade. So I did all of that, and honestly, I don't have the attention span to stay on one client for a long duration.
And I think sort of the lesson there is that if you as an individual are drawn to that, then do your own language models, do your own custom GPTs. If that just perplexes you, but you have that earnings report, and you have that target list, and that company's on that target list, then I think there are a lot of, whether it's someone within their agency or, as a small business owner myself, I'm a huge fan of outside resources. There are a lot of really great, you met my team member, Shah, before this. She's, there are a lot of fantastic people out there who are available on demand to do that kind of work for you. Let them build your your language model. Yeah. So it's also interesting. It's not like with AI. I think one of the things that I'm sort of, I don't know if it's struggling with, or maybe I'm not sure if what don't I know, but to me, AI is it's not so much about learning the technology. It's not like we're learning how to code, but it's learning about how to manage this intelligence. I read something, I get a newsletter, can't even remember now who puts it out, but they were talking, it's an AI, like AI headlines. And they highlighted an article in the New York Times about how big companies are now making AI, they're doing like AI drills, making it mandatory for the work. And I just thought, even the word drill, it's not about learning something esoteric, it's about forming new habits. Like, instead of writing this email from scratch, you are required to put it through a GPT. I don't know, I'm making it up, but I just thought that was so interesting.
I know I think it was University of Pennsylvania. I mean, the professor required them to use, AI, and that's the real world, and there are some things, some mathematics and basic formulas and things that you just need to learn through rote. You can't rely too much on AI, but you need to know like the relationship between numbers, if you will. But I mean, I say this all, I just turned 50, and I think I'm right there with, the 20-something-year-olds, I'm learning, I'm leaning in, I'm tinkering, I'm trying. I think the part for me, kind of going back to, the topic of this conversation around Flywheel, it's, finding the right partners that you like. I always tell, like, when I'm meeting, a client, I'm like, hey, I'm going to help you with new business. And like, great. How does it work? I'm like, well, we're going to have these conversations. We're going to go over your elevator, your targets, your current customers, where you want to be. And then I have to pitch you. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm going to pitch you, the agency. And if you don't want to buy from me, then like, there's something wrong, and like, that is like, to me, whenever I had people working with me.
So you basically give them their pitch to them.
Because
so they can sort of see how good or bad it is.
Qualify and vet opportunities without tying them up, because they need to run the agency. So you need me to be able to articulate what it is you do.
Right.
I mean, I had someone. Go ahead.
Does that also help them see where there are gaps, where they think, oh, no, we've got a great elevator pitch, and then they hear it coming from someone like you, and they realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe we do actually sound like everyone else.
I don't know. I never thought about that. I have no idea. Usually they're looking at me as like, I know exactly what I'm doing. As I said, I kind of started making it up at the get-go a little under 3 years ago, and it's evolved. I mean, next year, I'm negotiating with a very large global brand. I'm going to be hired by this brand to do strategic partnerships, which I'm super excited about, because it aligns well with me and who I am. So I will be going to non-endemic conferences and bringing in partners that align with what they do, right? And so for me, that's the future. So still having the agencies, I have my startups that I have, I need a liquidity event and then I get paid, right? But I'm happy to, to bet on that, and, I look at my agencies and my partnerships as, my revenue. And then I look at my startups as just 401k, 403b, if you ask my wife, like, she's a school teacher. So,
oh, thank goodness.
I will say, I would have never had the guts to do what I'm doing if I didn't have her and, the benefits, and, my kids are older now. So that's another thing for me is, my kids are 21. My daughter just got engaged. She's 26.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So I can travel and do everything. And it's
that's amazing. I just think the agencies and the brands who are working with you are so lucky to have you. There are a few questions that we didn't get to. Again, this happens a lot, but I want to be respectful for everyone else's time. We typically end at the bottom of the hour, but is there anything either that was on our list of questions that I didn't ask that you want to bring up, or something else that you wanted to just mention before we end our session today?
No, I mean, I do have capacity for one more agency.
Yeah. So at the time of this live, it is August 19th, 2025. We do put these on recording. So if you're looking at this between now and September, Jeffrey Mard has availability. He's got bandwidth for agencies who are interested in working with you. Yeah.
I have two proposals out that I think they'll probably close, but right now, the way I work is, if I can't do it, I can help place and stay involved as well. So there's oftentimes, there's my email.
There's the email. And yes, it's .co. that it's not a typo. It is not .com, .co. And look, again, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I think, Jeffrey, you're so generous that I would also encourage agencies who are even a little bit curious about what it might be like to work with you to call you and talk to you. And so that's your email. They can also find you on LinkedIn as well. That's your website, channelm.co.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
I've never done a StreamYard before. Great technology, by the way.
Yes, that's weird. So yeah, shout out to StreamYard for helping us with this. It's makes it really easy. It makes it really fun to do this. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This has been really terrific, and I think like I said, you are. I have this collection of new business personality types, and one of them is the connector, and you are the ultimate connector. And I think for those of you who are watching this who are looking at Jeffrey going, holy cow, I am not this guy, then you know what? My advice is actually don't try to be. Maybe take the lessons that are meaningful, but don't try to be. But if you are looking at him saying, yeah, I feel like I'm just like this guy, then think about some of the tactics that Jeffrey uses that work really well, and how can you adopt them, modify them to get out there a little bit more. I'm a big believer in working with strengths.
I want to mention a couple of things real quick, not even related to this too. Like, so if you're setting up your business, I had one of my mentors, LLC, but S corp all way. Make sure you're taxing. Talk to your financial advisor. Set up your business the right way. There's so many opportunities to capture more revenue for you. So really be strategic about how
I should probably hire you for my own business.
Oh, I have an amazing bookkeeper. She's fantastic.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good to know.
I mean, I guess I have some people on regular, 1099 type stuff, but being super strategic there. And then another question for you, Jody, is, I always like to like what's one thing that I could do to help you? We're going to hang up the phone. I know you're sold out for the next, session in September, but what can I do to help you?
Well, I am always on the lookout for agencies who feel like what had been working in terms of finding leads and closing business isn't working anymore. I mean, a lot of times they are getting to the point where they feel like referrals aren't generating enough leads, or the partnerships they have aren't generating enough leads. By the way, usually what I find is that's actually not true. They just have to get better at finding and maintaining those partnerships and referral relationships. But when they really feel like they kind of know what they need to do, but they're not really sure where to start, how to keep it going, what's best for them, what they don't need to do, how to eliminate what's not working, and how to make critical decisions about what is, then I'm your person. So yes, any agency who's looking for, as I call it, the new business operating system for their agency. It's the same framework, but it looks different for each agency.
Are there any types of agencies that you do your best work, like that's your power alley?
I will often, again, the size between 5 and 25 people. Usually it is with the owner. And typically I'm working with the agency owner, because I think for an agency that size, the owner is the best business development resource that agency has. It's not the only resource, but it's got to come from them. It's got to come from their strengths. And then we complement it from there. Also, again, typically it's that owner who feels like something had been working and it's not anymore. They're at that inflection point. So, some of the folks who I'm working with in the upcoming pilot to the Build, Win, Scale Accelerator, one is an agency that's been in business for a long time, but he is at that inflection point. Like what's been working in the past isn't working anymore. What do I need to do? Do I need to reinvent? Do I need to tweak? Another agency, they are two women who are taking over a legacy agency, but they're brand new. One of them, her first agency job, even though she's been in the business for a long time. And so they're smart, accomplished people, but what do? A couple of others who are sort of, again, either in that startup mode or that inflection point mode. Those are really the ones who I think we can see a lot of results working for me. So anyway, I dropped his pen. I love that. All right. We got to go. Thank you, folks, who have hung out with us or who are here today or watching the recording. You know how to get Jeffrey. Thank you for that. We're going to let you go, and I'll talk to you soon.